Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Marquette, and we are glad that you're here to stay curious. And it's Monday, so we stay star curious with Backyard Astronomy with me, Stargazer Mark. And today we're talking about the shortest day of the year, in the Northern Hemisphere anyway, the Winter Solstice. That is December 21st, and at 10:59 on December 21st, Tuesday, tomorrow, will be officially when the sun stands still. That's what solstice means, is the sun standing still in Latin. And what's happening is the sun has reached its farthest point south in the sky, and that means we'll have the shortest days and the longest night. And we're going to talk a little bit about why all that happens. I got a beautiful mural behind me here showing the sun at different stages during the day, all right, taken from sunrise to sunset. Beautiful little picture there to emphasize that the sun is an arc that travels across the sky. And of course, the sun isn't moving, it's the earth turning on its axis that's moving. But it wasn't until 400 years ago that mankind figured that out. So a lot of what we know about the winter solstice is tied up in ancient legends, ancient myths, and just ancient stargazers looking up there like you in your own backyard trying to figure out what's going on. So let's show a little bit of fun today about the winter solstice and have a good time with it. Like I said, the shortest day of the year is today. It's actually 10 hours and 29 minutes of sunshine. But stargazers like me love that because we have over 13 and a half hours of nighttime. And believe me, it's fun to get out and stargaze at 7, 8 o'clock at night in the winter instead of having to wait until 8 or 9 o'clock at night in the summertime to stargaze. Has its ups and downs, of course. A lot of you people that love outdoor activity are just suffering because you can't play tennis or golf or whatever you love to do, gardening, until 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. And it's a big effect on all of us here, particularly, I think, our innate nature as human beings is when it starts to get dark, everybody's yawning like crazy around here at 6 o'clock. And how many of you have gone to bed before 8 o'clock here in the last week or two?
It was the worst when
But
I went
so we're going to show you why this happens and a little bit about some of the cultural things around the winter solstice. So let's look here at a little bit of physics. We got to remind ourselves that the Earth's orbit around the sun is an ellipse. It's not a perfect circle. So we are actually closer to the sun. At what time of year would you think we're closest to the sun? I'll bet you'd mostly guess June. No, we are closest to the sun actually in January and furthest away from the sun in July. Well, that doesn't make sense, you say, because it's hot in July. No, 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 no. You're forgetting about the northern and southern hemisphere, because whereas the first day of winter here is the first day of summer to our friends like Dean Salzwedel in New Zealand, and we've got Mr. I think the Pool is the name of a friend we have down in Australia, and all kinds of friends in Australia. They are loving today because it's the first day of summer for them. So what's the deal? Why are we closest to the sun in January, and yet it's not hot in the northern hemisphere? All has to do with the tilt of the Earth. But there we show how the Earth is tilted. Notice there, and I'm going to show you a globe of it here in a second. But you notice on above my head in June, because of the 23.5-degree tilt of the Earth, okay, we are tilted towards the sun above my head here. In December, we are tilted away from the sun. And that is the secret to the intensity of light, because direct light is hotter than indirect light. And the rays on the northern hemisphere are slanted and not as warm as you see above my head here, the northern hemisphere tilted towards the sun. Again, emphasizing again this tilt of the Earth. What happened to the Earth that is tilted over on its side, not spinning directly up and down? Something hit us, obviously. Something hit Mars because it's tilted over on its axis. Something really hit Uranus because it's tilted way over, almost 90 degrees on its axis, where it's like a bowling ball going around its orbit. But we're spinning like a top. And as you see there, the sun angle determines the brightness. And this is actually the way, not the brightness, the amount of heat on the Earth. And this is showing you Northern Hemisphere summer because it's tilted towards and the light is direct on there. Now, the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn were marked to show that that is where the sun stopped, okay, above the equator. That far away from the equator, 30 degrees, actually 23.5 degrees exactly what it is, is where the Tropic of Cancer is. And today the sun, if you're standing on the Tropic of Cancer there in Africa or in Madagascar off the tip of Africa there, the sun would be directly overhead. Well, you go out today here in Florida or up there in Wisconsin where Mick is, Christopher Mick in Hudson, Wisconsin. All right. You're looking at the sun way to the south, which reminds me, you'll never see the sun, the moon, or the planets looking towards Detroit or looking towards the North Pole, all right? You're always going to see the sun, moon, and the planets looking south towards Miami, all right? That's because of this tilt. So never will you see the sun or moon or any the planets up near the Big Dipper or any of that. So you're always looking south when you're looking at the ecliptic and the zodiac of constellations where the sun, the moon, and the planets are. And that kind of gives you a cool idea what that looks like. So here's the configurations. Summer solstice above my head. The Earth is tilted towards the sun. The direct ray light, the southern hemisphere tilted away. They're having cooler temperatures. Winter solstice on my right. And the equinoxes are between that. And that's what the word equinox means, is equal day and equal night. So twice a year, around March 21st and then again around September 21st, we have equal daylight, 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of night. And then it goes on from there. So the good news about the winter solstice is we are having the shortest daylight of the year on the winter solstice, and it's going to get better for all you golfers, gardeners, tennis players, and everything like that. And I do miss going out and golfing at about 6:30 in the evening because it's dark before that now. So what else we got here? Here's the winter solstice again, just reiterating this that the polar night is a 6-month night up there, all right, where they're in eternal darkness, and down at the Antarctica, they are experiencing all daylight, no night at all there. Let me have a little rocket fuel here to get me going there. So that is the physics behind the winter solstice, December 21st. Again, looking at your home, those of you homeowners, particularly those that love indoor plants, know that you're not going to have your plants grow in windows facing to the north. All of your windows facing to the south of the home is where you're going to have your sunlight to grow plants, or have a solar panel on top like this picture shows here. Again, a very good dramatic example of how the sun is way overhead in June, 6 months from now, and how it tilts down. And obviously, because it's been in a shorter arc across the sky, it spends less time in the sky. So those of you looking for a home out there that like a nice, cozy, warm day room or whatever, you want it to face the south, and that's important. Here is the sun today rising and setting over Fairbanks, Alaska. Those of you that have been up there, I think you're going to see it for about 2 hours, something like that, up in Fairbanks, Alaska. And then here we are at Bondi, no, not there we are at Bondi Beach in Australia, where this is a retirement community up there and down there. So they're hitting the beach today in this weekend in Australia, where people in North America, particularly America, are hitting the slopes, hitting the ski slopes, wherever they're at up there. By the way, got Marty Winkle, my co-producer, is here today. Jessica Galloway is also here. They're working the board together in the camera. And Marty, this is a retirement community, Bondi Beach in Australia there. So
Let's go.
Let's go.
All right.
Well, this is more like we're thinking about the winter solstice here, though it's the summer solstice down in Australia, southern Africa, and southern Australia. I mean, southern South America. Because most of the population of the world, or the communicative world of ancient times, was in the Northern Hemisphere, this is why we think about, the traditions of the winter holidays. And here is, of course, the famous Stonehenge. Kind of a rare photograph I found of it. No people are around it, no cars. It's an aerial. Of course, you see a lot more aerials now with the drones that we have. But this was an ancient structure that is aligned with the sunrise and sunsets. And on the solstice, you bet that today, this morning, this was crammed with all kinds of people celebrating the winter solstice up there in England. There's the beach. Just keep warm there. And this is Clint Stones in Worcestershire, England. And I'll bet anything that Hazel Banks, I'll bet you've been there. Hazel C. Keck Banks, our wonderful Stay Curious follower and volunteer here at the museum. This is in Worcestershire, I guess they say it there. Clint Stones there. It just gives you a feel for the old Druids and the old-timey way that people worship the sky because they didn't understand it. So we have a lot of mythology and a lot of, now let me go back to that. And we can look at that and go back to Stonehenge while I talk about the many holidays that fall around this winter solstice, like Christmas, Hanukkah, and Kwanzaa are the best known. But since prehistory, the winter solstice has been a significant time of year for many cultures, marking festival and rituals. And the big centerpiece of their thinking was the rebirth of life in the earth. After fall, we see everything die, the tree leaves fall, certain animals hibernate, and then once we're midway through that season, which the winter season is just beginning, okay, but that led optimism that the days were going to get longer, even though it was going to get January and February pretty hard months to endure weather-wise. At least the days are starting to get a little longer. So winter gods and goddesses, some of them centered around celebrations that included beings who weren't so kind. They fireside stories of mythological creatures and monsters that would steal the sun and play tricks and deal with humans in darkness. And then when the solstice came, winter solstice, oh my gosh, it was gonna get lighter out, so these demons were chased away by the daylight. There are a variety of other gods in Mexico, Scotland, Egypt had Horus. A lot of us have heard that Egyptian god. There's a spider grandmother by the Hopi Indians. But winter solstice is always a regeneration or rebirth of the earth. And the Scandinavian goddess had Biwi is associated with health and fertility. So he had many festivals that sprung up over the solstice, none more popular than the Yule logs being burnt by Scandinavians, and they drank mead around bonfires, while minstrel poets sang and told stories of ancient legends. The Chinese have a festival going on right now. This celebrates the origins of yin and yang, the philosophers of balance and harmony in the cosmos, because there is a yin and yang in daylight and darkness, and they knew that. And during the equinoxes, that yin and yang was equal, 12 hours a day, 12 hours a night, and then it went away from that. And one of the most famous of all is the Saturnalias. The Saturnalia was a Roman pagan festival honoring Saturn, the goddess of agriculture and time. And it started around December 17th and usually lasted for over a week. And during the celebration, all work came to a halt. In fact, Romans kind of befriended their slaves. They let their slaves do things that they wouldn't normally do throughout the year. Gave them a little freedom to do what they liked. And courts were closed, the army rested, no criminals were prosecuted, Instead, the Romans spent Saturnalia having fun, singing, playing music, gambling, feasting, socializing, and giving gifts to one another. Thus, when the first century Christians wanted to worship the birth of Jesus, they hid a lot of their celebrations in the Saturnalia of the Romans so that the Romans wouldn't think they were celebrating Jesus' birth. They thought they were celebrating this pagan festival. And therein again lies why December 25th is the date chosen for the birth of Jesus Christ in the Christian world. So a little bit of fun talking about history there. Around the country, the North America, you can celebrate it many different ways. This actually is a full moon rising during a winter solstice that I photographed a couple years ago over Cocoa Beach. And last night, I took this photograph of the moon peeking behind the clouds on the next to last day of autumn with little lightning in the background. That is the famous Max Brewer Bridge here in Titusville that connects Titusville to the Merritt Island Wildlife Refuge, and you go over there to the Playa Linda beaches over there. So sharing with you a little bit of nature's wonders here in Titusville. And I thought it'd be appropriate in a non-secular way to celebrate a little winter blessing that we all can think about. Now is the time to honor the rebirth of the sun, to remember the light in the darkest part of the season, with hope of good things to come and the promise of a renewed life. After all, it is light that always leads us in the darkness, of course, and missing this light of the spring, summer, and fall affects us all. Like I talked about, I miss golfing in the evenings, so I got to golf in the morning. Gardening was a big thing in my life for a long time, and I'd stay out gardening in the summertime till 8, 9 o'clock at night. And all of you that maybe enjoy tennis or things like that are looking for the spirit of the light to bring back those fun things that you can do. So that is a little bit about the winter solstice happening today, or happening tomorrow, December 21st, and that the exact moment that the sun is standing over the Tropic of Capricorn will be 10:59 on Tuesday, December 21st. So we hope that you've enjoyed. As I got my globe here that I really didn't need to use, I had my globe ready there to show you the tilt of the Earth's axis. We always forget about that. And one thing that we'll probably never know for sure is what knocked us over on its side, okay, to give us that tilt. But without that tilt, folks, wherever you live, you're going to have the same type of weather, a temperate climate all the time, except for the rain and storms that would come around. So if you're up there in Ohio, it's going to be maybe the highest it would ever get 50 degrees, while the warm weather stays at the equator if we didn't have this tilt, if the Earth was straight up and down. So be thankful that we do. We think it's a really unique thing about life on Earth in general. If we didn't have the seasons, there wouldn't be a lot of changing in creatures and plant life and so forth. So we're grateful for all these changes that happen. So until then, I'll tell you what, we're glad that you wanted to stay curious with us on Star Curious every Monday on Stay Curious with me, Mark Marquette. And next week, we're going to tell you about looking in your backyard at the Constellation Orion, one of the most beautiful constellations with all kinds of treasures in it, the next time that you come to Stay Curious with us and bridge the space between us. See you again.